And if you make them aware of that, then now the onus is on them to now manage that. So you don't have to manage it. They have to manage it. And I think that's important
It's
because,
reasonable,
because we would be, you can imagine someone feeling quite isolated, doesn't have support because everyone's talking about their children. Where do I go about this? And I think we need to arm ourselves with that information to say, make them aware. And then they need to manage that. Welcome to the Full Stop Podcast with Berenice Smith from Walking Our Shoes, Sarah Lawrence from After the Storm, and me, Michael Hughes from Married and Childless. If this is your first time here, our podcast is centred around supporting the childless not by choice community, and our aim is to be a focal point for the community and with all our special guests show how you to manage your grief, the issues specific to us, and by example show that a full and happy life can be had without those children we dearly wanted. Now this episode, the three of us take a deep dive into COVID, working from home and online meetings, and how to handle the triggers that come from these, as well as the exciting news of Berenice and Sarah being nominated for Digital Women of the Year. We join the chat just after we said our hellos. This time tomorrow, I'll hopefully be about a third of the way up the New South Wales coast because I've got to go to Queensland for the next couple of weeks. So
20 cases. 20 cases. I can't remember the last time we saw 20 cases.
Yeah, currently we have 4.1 million, and the deaths, God, it's just too hard to read that. 116,000.
Yeah. I think we've gone something like 25 days without any community transmission in New South Wales, and we were probably, I don't want to say the worst, but we are the highest risk because we have the largest amount of people coming in from overseas that have to go into hotel quarantine for 2 weeks. Now we had someone that did that, came out and tested negative, and then a few days later tested positive. So it's really shaken up how long do we have to quarantine for? But on the whole, that's the sort of figures that we're talking about. 25 days without any community transmission. I'm actually going to get the Australian COVID stats up and share the screen, because I think, as Kate put it in she says it's actually encouraging that can happen. Although I do feel somewhat, I've got to be careful because, some people may think I'm being a bit, what's the word?
What do you mean
boasting.
by something happening? So the fact that they have a case and then they are quick to then review and then take action. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can understand that. Yeah.
Here we go.
Because that's kind of, now I can see we're recording, so I try and sort of steer away from politics. But I think that
it's all right. Well, I could cut that out. That's okay.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I think we can probably talk, reasonably about that, and just say that I think that's been the problem for us, is that action hasn't been taken. When you think
Can you allow me to share the screen, please, Sarah?
Yeah, of course. Hang on.
Thanks.
I'll make you co-host.
Sorry, Berenice, you go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just thinking that that's been always the issue, I think, with us in this country, is just trying to, the action just takes a while, really. No one on the podcast audience is going to be able to see this, but...
No, that's right. So that's the stats that I can get hold of. That's from the national perspective. So if you look on the left-hand side, the current cases, the total deaths to date is 909. 800 of those came from Victoria, where they had an outbreak where they didn't control it as well as they should have. But as you can see, we've got one case in ICU in Victoria. That's it.
Jesus Christ.
There's an article that I read this morning that's been up on the Guardian newspaper in the UK, and it's just somebody who went back to New Zealand. She's a New Zealander by birth, and she decided this time last year that it would be fine in the UK, and London was her home. It's where she had work. She works for herself. She's self-employed. I think as a journalist, or something like that. And she decided that no, she'd stick it out. London's home. And then as it got worse and worse and worse, and she had the opportunity to take a contract in New Zealand just before Christmas. So she left before the last lockdown, went over to New Zealand, and then had 2 weeks in the isolation hotel, which is only something that our government have introduced recently. You have quarantine hotels now. So we haven't had those. As far as I'm aware, we haven't had those so far, which I could be wrong, but I don't think that's been a thing.
No, it hasn't.
And what she said was that it was just the strangeness of being in New Zealand, because people were walking around the streets normally. They were hugging each other, sitting in cafes normally, in like a 2019 scenario, because they can. And she said that she just wanted to go around and just tell everyone, you don't know how lucky you are, you don't know how lucky you are, to random strangers. And she was just so aware that she had to step away from people. It was part of her behavior that she stepped away from people, because in London, of course, that's the thing you do now. We all do that. When I take the dog out for a walk, I have to step away from people. That's polite. It's rude to go near someone. And there's a whole level of social behaviors that I think Europe, lots of parts of Europe, but certainly I think in the UK, because of the sheer volume of cases, we're going to have so many social issues. It occurred to me that on my birthday, which is the 7th of March, will be the last time I hugged my parents. It's the last time I saw them. Sorry, I'm going to start getting really emotional now, but it's the last time I hugged them, because that was my birthday last year. And that's the last time that we went, or my dad and my husband went to the pub to go and get a takeaway. It's my birthday. And so it's bittersweet. We're still like this, and in fact, it's worse. And I personally, it might offend a few of our listeners, I think that the government are unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable in the way that they have communicated, or failed to communicate, failed to lock us down soon enough. The Football League here locked down sooner than the government made us lock down. They ran the Cheltenham Gold Cup, for crying out loud, in the beginning of March. And the football were already saying, no, we're not opening up stadiums. And you've got clubs in this country who struggle to stay in business, absolutely struggle to stay afloat. Although I will say one thing, that I've decided that after all this is over, that I think football is the way to go to encourage social interactivity, because the Cambridge United team that we have here have been in contact with Kenny so often, my husband, because he's a season ticket holder. They ring up to check on his welfare, as they have done with all the season ticket holders. They've been running Joe Wicks style exercise classes. They actually had here, we were the only club, I think, that was the tester to see whether they could actually do social distancing in a football stadium, and I think it went quite well. But they decided, obviously with lockdown, that they're not now doing that. But I think football is the way to go to make connections, because actually they've been so brilliant, just keeping in touch and ringing people up. But anyway, sorry, political rant there, but I think just blood on their hands, really. And you could say arguably that we all are responsible, and yes, we are. But when you have a culture of mistrust, because it's constant U-turns, and it is constant U-turns. Yes, no, we're not going to lock down. There is no lockdown. And yes, you can meet up with 3 or 4 households on Christmas Day, or whatever that bollocks was. I mean, I just stayed at home with Kenny. We didn't go anywhere. But it creates a culture of mistrust. We all just think, well, okay, well, I don't quite believe them. Even if you think that you might believe them. I mean, this roadmap we've got to get out of lockdown that they're going to announce on the 22nd of February. We've got 116 deaths, for crying out bloody loud. 40 4.1 million cases. We are nowhere near getting out of lockdown, but they'll do it because business, because money, because income. And actually what could have happened this time last year is we all could have been in lockdown. We could have had quarantine hotels and we could have done a hell of a lot bloody more. And we didn't, because the government told us it wasn't a problem and Johnson missed all the Cobra meetings. So there you go. Sorry, filthily angry. I don't particularly care if people switch off the podcast at this point because I'm just so bloody angry. And actually, I've had a couple of close deaths lately as well. So yeah, I am bloody angry, really angry, because I can see the effect it's having on people, on our community as well, because we're not covered in all of this. Not over here, no one speaks about people who are childless, people who are isolating on their own. That ain't talked about. Yeah, we don't exist. And that really, really, really fucks me off. Sorry. Sorry, that's a proper rant. Anyway, how are you on this fine February morning? God. Oh dear. But on the bright side, I started reading books again. I was struggling. I said this to Lisa Ann, who was on the previous episode, the January episode about reading and how I struggled with all of that and I really couldn't concentrate. And I've actually found some books to read. I've started reading again, like proper reading, like concentrating reading, as opposed to I don't know, flicking through the internet, looking at social media and making myself feel really pissed off. I just haven't had the attention span. It's been like a grasshopper. I don't know. I read loads. I'll read a book a month and I just haven't been able to at all. So that's a positive.
So what book is it?
I was hoping you'd ask that because I just was drinking my tea thinking, to tell you what it is. Well, two books actually on the go. So one is the Islands of Abandonment, Life in the Post-Human Landscape, which sounds like very, very, it's got photographs in it. And it's actually of someone, a photographer, who went over and took photographs of places that have been abandoned because of disasters. So Chernobyl, Detroit, and some of these Scottish islands that had just been abandoned because of the clearances. And there's loads of photographs. I saw it reviewed in something in a newspaper, and I had to go and buy it. So they've got places like I'm going to get this wrong. So Scottish people, I'm very sorry. Inchmickery, I don't know. It looks like Inchmickery, an island in the Firth of Scotland, which is now a breeding ground for seals, but was in fact a military base, apparently. So it's a really good book. It's brilliant. It's got loads of really good photographs in it. I really like Abandoned Buildings. Is it Abandoned Buildings? It's on Dave or something like that here in the UK, and you get all these experts, and it's hilarious actually, because they're all sitting there. They're all quite important historical experts going, but why was it abandoned? What happened here? You think, well, you know, because you're on the programme, you asked. Just stop, making it bigger than it is and get to the point. When they do get to the point, it's often very interesting and they go all around the world. So it's sort of a bit like that. And they've got some really fantastic photographs of abandoned buildings because I quite like all that urban photography where people go into old buildings and mansions and take photographs and risk life and limb from crumbling debris. I quite like that. I can't do it myself. I'll probably get arrested, But anyway, so that's my favourite book at the moment. So it's a factual book, not a fiction book.
What are you googling, Michael?
I'm googling Inchmickery.
Inchmickery,
yeah.
Okay,
Inchmickery.
found it.
Got it.
Actually, it's actually just outside of Edinburgh on the the Forth.
The Firth of
On the Forth. Yeah, and which is not far from
away.
Not far from where my ancestors come from in Leith, which is northeast of Edinburgh. Okay. There you go. That's what I'm googling.
Yeah, it was fortified in 1915 as part of the Middle Line of Defence for the First World War. And
so what's the other book you're reading? So you said you got two on the go.
I have, yeah, The Dale of Bowie, which is all about David Bowie, and 10 lessons from David Bowie's life to help you live yours. Anyone that knows me knows that I absolutely love David Bowie. I have not quite yet worked out why he's not here and how cruel everything is. Still can't listen to Lazarus. But this is just fantastic. There's been loads of documentaries lately as well, and concerts and things that they showed him at Glastonbury, the full concert a couple of weeks ago, which is amazing. So yeah, lots of life lessons by a guy called Mark Edwards, who's a journalist, and he's a life like a trainer and a life coach as well. So it's got some really good stuff in it too. And actually, this is a book that maybe start reading again, because there's just so much in it. He was really into Buddhism, David Bowie, and I wouldn't say that I am, but I'm interested because I meditate a lot, and the Cambridge Buddhist Centre not being open is one of the things I've struggled with probably the most, because they're just amazing. We used to go there quite a lot. So this is a bit like them and David Bowie in a book, which is just amazing. So I'm happy with that one. So there you go. Again, both factual books. I don't know. I can't quite get into fiction. I think because it's also just like different. There's no association at the moment with fiction. I'm like, well, okay, they're whatever. If you had a romance novel, you think, well, that's just not going to happen, or a murder mystery. It all just seems a bit kind of, I don't know, can't quite get into it. I think because of the situation we're in is all so much worse. I think somehow, yeah. I was
so what's going on with you, Sarah?
Oh, not much. Diaries in Arctic Wasteland. I just can't even bring myself to talk about it. I'm so angry about what's gone on. So I have no words. I was just sitting here like, Berenice is just like ranting, and like, there's nothing I can say to disagree here, other than the fact that I'm a bit pissed off that I think the public are going to get blamed for all of this, when actually it's very much Boris Johnson and his cronies. So yeah, but let's not go there because I'm too fucking angry to talk about it. So yeah.
But it's absolutely brilliant though that I think that you guys over there in Australia are in a better situation. I think that is hopeful. It's just
it is genuinely. It's not smugness. I actually take some from it. So yeah,
I do too.
I get, and that's I've got a bit of a. I'm on a bit of a crusade with people who are whinging about it over here. Just saying, hang on, get a bit of perspective here. Look at what's going on around the world, and just change your paradigm, because it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I think there's parts of the world where it's been really, really bad. The UK is bad, but you have places, India, and other places that have been just unbelievably bad. We are, I guess the positive side is that we are getting vaccines done. That's why I missed the last podcast, because I was taking my husband to be vaccinated. My parents have been vaccinated, my sister-in-law, so it's just me and my brother to go. But my mum had the AstraZeneca vaccine, and everyone else has had the Pfizer vaccine. So we're all like, oh, how do you feel? Vaccine comparison. And actually she was quite tired. I think it was the day before her birthday, and I think it just hit her a little bit, perhaps the tiredness, possibly also the emotion of it too, because I know that when I got the notification through for Kenny, I just sat here and cried, actually, because it was just, he's got another one to go. There's a whole kind of issue and a conversation about how soon that will be, but let's not go down there, because that again will make us all just so bloody angry. But there are some positives, I think, in that. So, we're starting to get there with those.
I mean, it was this morning. I was watching cricket, and they had a crowd in they had an Indian crowd, only 50%. But I was saying to Jim, my other half, it's so weird to hear people cheering and, the hubbub in the background, because life has got very quiet. It's you used to be going out and doing things, meeting people, but life has got very quiet. So you start to notice weird things like crowds on telly. So, but they said in the Sun today, I just noticed it as I was walking past it, the pubs are going to be open in April. I don't know whether that's previous or not, but
if it's the Sun, it could mean anything, let's be honest.
Well, it's given me a little bit of hope, because I've fucking killed to go in the pub, if I'm honest with you, just to be around other people, just a bit of normality. So that's given me a little bit of hope, but you just don't know, do you? It's about just keeping going. I think you know, the thoughts over here was that 2021, it's going to be new, it's going to be different, and then it wasn't, and now everyone's like, the spring, it's going to be different. But I don't know, there's these little noises coming out from Boris and co, or so, should I say Alexander and co, because Boris ain't even his real name. You know, sort of saying, you know, well, we're going to have to be careful with this, but it's also contradictory, which is why you can't blame the public because of the messaging that's coming out. I don't blame anybody but them, if I'm honest with you. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's just keeping yourself sane, isn't it? I've been doing a lot of running, a lot of yoga, been on Zoom a lot, I've got to be honest. Getting a bit zoomed out. I'm going to the virtual pub this afternoon with friends, but it's just like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think it's like you say, it's the noise. It's, in some respects though, it's been nice because I've heard more birdsong.
Yeah,
so much more birdsong. You become much more aware of, I think, things like that. Particularly, I think around here where I live in fairly built-up area, I suppose. You know, it's a city. It's Cambridge. It's a fair amount. It's not the busiest place in the universe, but you notice it a lot more because it's, theoretically, people shouldn't be driving anywhere. I mean, there's still people on the roads, but it's much quieter than normal. So you just hear it more, and that's been actually really nice to have that. Yeah, I've enjoyed the birdsong. Yeah. Actually, we've got a lot of land gulls around here as well. For some reason, I don't know. We're not, I don't know, not quite an hour from the coast, I suppose, but so there can't be seagulls. I think that would be a bit much, but there must be land gulls. And there was one or two came across the other afternoon when I was walking Molly, and the sound was like, oh my God, it reminds you of the seaside. Because that's my thing. I think I'm not necessarily missing the pub. I'm missing the sea. I'm just feeling utterly landlocked at the moment by that. Because, you know, in the past it's been, okay, it's only an hour up the road, and it is only an hour up the road. You literally can just get in the car and you can go. You know, you can do a day out at the coast from here quite easily. It's not a problem. But because of the lockdown laws, you can't. So now it just feels really landlocked. You're like, oh my God. Anyway, yeah.
Well, there you go, Michael. You asked us.
Yeah, we're struggling. We are struggling.
No, but it's actually, I take your stories with me when I go around, because obviously my job takes me to a lot of different places, and I see people from various levels of the socio-economic scale, let's say, and some people just need a little bit of a, hey, listen, you might be moaning about the fact that, you know, you can't go to the football, or you can't go, you know, you can't go to a club, or the Australian Open's down here, but no one can go. You just need a bit of sort of reality about what's going on around the rest of the world. So your stories actually, you know, they get told.
Oh, bless you. Thanks for that.
Oh, that's maybe emotional, but yeah, because it does it. I don't think we ever thought this time last year that we would be where we are now. I just can't. It's just too overwhelming to think about, actually. And then also, I suppose there is that strength of that we're here. You know, we're here. So far safe, well, that my family, my parents, safe and well, that, you know, there are blessings in all of this, you know. And I think that, I don't know, maybe every generation has to have like a big thing, and maybe this is the generational thing of us. I don't know. You know, you just know that life isn't ever going to be the same again. If I ever hear the word new normal, I just like, God, I could throw things at that. But because it won't. I mean, I don't think there is a definition of anything like that. And hopefully people will just have a little bit more kindness and respect for each other at the end of all of this. We don't forget. I don't think anyone can forget, because I think it's touched all of us in some way, whether we've known someone. But it's one of those things that it does touch you. That's a stupid thing that I just said there, because it's not right at all. But it's touched everybody, because they've all been impacted by it in some form or another. You know, from wearing a mask to how we walk down the street, whether we even decide that we're going to walk down the street, to whether we've been affected by somebody, a loss, bereavement, it's life-changing, absolutely life-changing for absolutely everybody. Even if you're somewhere like New Zealand or somewhere where you perhaps haven't had the impact that we've had in Europe, you're still watching it going on. You're still sat there and you still got those measures waiting to come in place should it then happen again. And I think in New Zealand they've changed the laws now, I think, on how you go, and you have to wait now and book a space to go into the country. So again, they're impacted in their own way as well. We all are. We'll come out of it different, absolutely, for sure. I just can't wait to just... I was dreaming last night, actually, that I was going to Australia. Must be to do with the podcast and you, Michael, and that. And I was on this bus. It was a weird thing, and I kept going back to the dream. You know, if you have a dream, sometimes you kind of like, you think, oh God, that was a bit awful. But we keep going back to it, and you can't get out of the dream. So, for God's sake, I've got to dream about something else. And I was on this bus at an airport with my dad. For some reason, my dad was coming with me. I think my mum was there, and maybe my husband, I don't know. And I was saying, I can't go. I cannot go because we still have COVID here. I can't. I could have got it by now from touching everything. And they're going, yeah, but we're all vaccinated. We're all fine. And I was saying in this dream, but I can't go because I might pass the COVID. I might have COVID and I can pass it on to Michael and Vicky. I can't go. Anyway, no one's looking after the dog. And apparently that was also the other thing. I had to get off the bus and go home and go and get the dog because I apparently left the dog with some food for 2 weeks. So in the house on their own, which is just, I would not do that, just in case anyone thinks I've got animals. I would never do that. Molly comes everywhere with me, and I've been known to not go on holiday if I haven't got anyone to look after her, or I just take her with me. Anyway, so I wouldn't do that. But yeah, so I never did get to Australia to see you and Vicky, Michael. Sorry about that. I got off on the bus at the airport, apparently, but my mum and dad and Kenny apparently are on their way because they've been vaccinated, apparently, in my little dream state. Jesus, I started to dream about it. I have started to dream about it. It's just like, there's always at least one COVID-related dream every night, but I was being very diligent in not passing COVID on.
Oh,
even in my dream. Okay, so there you are.
What are we going to talk about? What did we say we were going to talk about?
Yeah, what did we say?
Let me have a look, because I did put some stuff on the Trello board, and I will tell you if I can find the Trello board, because I already use Trello for other things, so I have to make sure I don't go into the wrong one and start adding stuff to the wrong Trello board. So I put it on a separate thing. A separate browser out of the way.
Me and my mate were talking the other day. We were having a business meeting and we got bored partway through, and we were talking about our wardrobe, weirdly, and we were saying there are parts of our wardrobe. I think she compartmentalizes, whereas I just bung it in. But she was sort of saying there's parts of her wardrobe with clothing, work-related clothing, that she's not worn for like over a year now because we haven't been able to go anywhere. And we've set ourselves a challenge of wearing everything in our wardrobe at least once this year.
I love that.
So we were saying that, because we do a lot of videos for the other business, and we were saying that I said, well, one day I'm just going to rock up in a cocktail dress, full makeup. You won't know because I won't warn you, and we'll just record this video for LinkedIn. So yeah, we've set ourselves these weird challenges to keep ourselves going.
I'm so on your LinkedIn feed now to find out what you do. That is actually a really good idea.
I'm Googling it. Hang on, where we LinkedIn.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good idea. I've been wearing my sparkly sequin Doc Martens to do the food shop.
Yeah.
Because I'm still going out and getting food literally once a week. That's it. And early in the morning, so I have to get up at 6 in the morning. And I think I used to get up at 6 in the morning and live my life, and I can't even. It's so damn painful. It's like, I don't know about you, but you have that week over Christmas or wherever, or maybe Easter, where everything slips a bit with your time. So I end up going to bed like really late and then waking up late. And then that first bit when you have to go back to work or get up and do a call or something, in January, official, that official thing, and it hurts. It's like that on a Friday morning when I have to get up and go and do something, and I have to go to the shop and stand there and think, oh my God, this just hurts. I don't want to be here. And you got to remember, like, mask and slip. So my sequin Doc Martens are my one joyous thing. And in fact, I've had a few comments on them. People are like, oh, I love your shoes. They're so sparkly. And I'm just like, I know. I know. They really hurt though, because I don't wear them often enough. And DMs, if you wear them, we've talked about this, haven't we? So you've got to break them in.
Yeah.
Well, I had, and of course then stopped wearing them over the summer because it was just a bit too warm to wear DMs. Even I concede that you can't wear them in the summer. So yeah, they're starting to hurt again. So I'm not wearing them, and once a week is not enough to break them in. And they're not really the sort of thing you can wear around the house because they're a bit too clunky for that. So I've been wearing them on the afternoon dog parade, as they call it. Because we literally just go around the street out here. My street's got a massive, great big green space outside, which has just been wonderful. And we literally do laps around it. So to keep fit and to interest. So I've been wearing my Doc Martens for that, but not when it snowed because I'd ruin them. I don't know how snow affects sweetquins.
I don't know. I wear mine all year.
Do you? Now I get quite warm feet.
Yeah. It's I don't like feet. I don't like sandals. I don't like seeing other people's feet. I'm really quite foot phobic. So mine are always strapped into my boots. This is slightly off topic, but I was talking to someone about it once, going, I wonder where this foot phobia comes from. Where have I developed this foot phobia? And I worked it out because my dad, right, hold on to your hats here. So he did a lot of sport as a kid, and I'll be honest, my toenails are not fantastic, so I paint them so I don't have to see them. But his are manky as. Sorry, Dad, but they are. And so I went round to see him a couple of years ago, and he was doing his feet. And then he said, oh, and I sat down beside him and he sort of put his feet up into my face and I screamed. So that's where it comes from. So yeah, I can't stand feet. So they have to be strapped into boots all year round.
What about Jim's feet?
Oh, no. They're like hobbit feet. No. No, it's bad.
That's a real, because I have a phobia of butterflies and of anything like that. Peacock tails, things like that. If there's peacocks,
really?
I can't. Yeah, we went to Brownsea Island once, and it's off the Dorset coast, and it's quite small. And I don't know. We got to the end of this tour, and I could hear them. Obviously, and I'm thinking there's peacocks. Fuck, that's peacocks on I'm on an island. Oh my God, there's that peacocks. Anyway, thinking that's okay, it's all right. And I had to just walk from a very short distance from where we were across to the tea room. Now, I love a cup of tea. When you've done all the kind of stuff, when you've looked around stuff, again, things I miss is cup of tea, piece of cake, in a nice tea room.
Yeah.
And so there's this tea room. I can see it. And there's peacocks. And there's ones with great long tails. And I can't walk across there. I actually can't walk across there. I really cannot do that. So we had to go back on the boat back over to the Dorset. So it's where I can't remember the boat's going from now. I've forgotten. Poole, I think it is, Poole Harbour, and without a cup of tea. Kenny's like, but they probably had chocolate fudge cake, which is his favourite thing in the world ever after beer. And he was just, I don't think he's ever forgiven me. But I had to take him into this cafe and just have some cake. I'm really sorry, but I can't deal with the bloody peacocks. I don't know why.
What were they like?
Well, yeah, they were like, I'll come at you with my tail. I kind of woo, you this is the tail because I can't bear. I hate it.
What is it? Is it the pattern or the texture? Or
it's the flicker of the tail when it's up. Oh. It's that noise, and it's the same with butterfly. Yeah, butterfly wings as well. I had a bat in my hair years and years ago when I was a kid, and we went to Scotland. And I think I some reason been out fishing with I don't know what, my dad had been out some fishing thing. I think from memory there was a bat in my hair, so I think it's all to do with that. And we had a minor bird when we were a kid, and the flap of bird wings as well. So probably something to do with the minor bird, maybe. I don't know, stuff like that. I just don't like that fluttery. It's the noise. I can't bear it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just hate it. I know that the last time I probably saw a peacock with his tail, it was when I was a kid, and it was in Cornwall in a farm on Pentire Point. And we were walking. I can remember coming across it with my dad and being utterly freaked out by it. Just didn't like it at all. So.
Oh wow!
There you go. Weird
What?
things. Feet and peacocks.
I know. What about you? What about you, Michael? You got
What's
any
your
that?
thing?
Yeah. What's your thing?
Yeah.
It's not spiders. I know that.
No.
Oh, look, I mean,
spiders.
I'd probably scream like a girl if there was one in the car, but I don't have phobia. This is going to sound really, and it's changed over time. It's getting better, but and this might shock some people, but I just couldn't do old people. Like and Vicky's often said to me, because Vicky's very patient and empathetic and caring, and Michael, what is it? I don't know what it is, but I think it was, I don't know. I was always afraid they'd latch onto you, sort of thing, and more people, that, and I just found that uncomfortable. No idea where it's come from, and well, actually, I'll tell you what it's come from. I think now I'm actually thinking about it. I've never had. Now I'm bloody old myself, but I never had grandparents. Sorry, I had one grandparent, and she died when she was 55. So I've pretty much grown up not around, the elderly, and I found it uncomfortable to be around elderly people. Maybe the uncomfortableness was just from the fact that I just didn't understand, or I wasn't exposed to that. But yeah, it's interesting. Although I am getting better.
I can understand that though. If you haven't grown up in that environment, then I think then yeah, that there's a thing there. I'm used to that because I had 4 great grandparents, 4 grandparents, and lots of great aunts and uncles. So it's kind of used to that. But yeah, if you don't have that in your family, then yeah, I can understand that's a bit daunting as well. And of course, our behaviours change as we get older as well, don't we? We see it in ourselves, and we see it, I think, in our parents as well. We do change. We become more dependent on others. So yeah, it can make sense. I can understand.
I'm not quite sure if I've shared this story with you, but we was on a. So we took 2014, I think it was. Took my mum over to the UK because went to see her dad's grave in Italy, and she was driving my sister. So we sort of left mum with my sister so she could spend time with the grandkids and her daughter, and my sister's like, just can you take her out, please, just somewhere. So we went for a little road trip, over to the Cotswolds and then down through the whatever county that is. And we actually ended up in Poole.
There you go, home of peacocks.
And then along the coast. Anyway, it was getting late in the afternoon. So this is over a few days. We're getting late in the afternoon, and it's time to find somewhere to stay. And we'd had a bad experience in Bath because we were going to go to Bath, but it was. See, again, it's the Australian mentality. Driving to Bath, thinking, park the car, we're going to have a look at Bath. But you forget that, and this was June, July, yeah. So, and you just forget about these things, and so we're in the middle of Bath. It's an absolute shit show, just traffic everywhere, and I'm just, we're getting out of here. Just go. Anyway, so having said that, so we've rocked up to Brighton, and I'm just going, it's going to be the same. We're never going to find anywhere. Let's just move on. And so we go to Eastbourne. And
Eastbourne!
Oh no!
So, Eastbourne.
Yeah. So as my mum actually said after we booked into the place, oh, Michael, you do know this is God's waiting room, don't you?
It is. Oh, it totally is.
So that's Shaun of the Dead, isn't it?
Yeah. So
sorry, Eastbourne. It's very lovely
Eastbourne.
there. We like Eastbourne, but it is because all my elderly relatives have all holidayed in Eastbourne.
It's like
so anyway, we find a hotel, and Vicky's, look, let's go in this one. And so we park in there, and as is our custom, we just find somewhere. Vicky goes in. Have you got any rooms? Yeah, do that thing. So anyway, it did. And I can see her in the rear view vision mirror of the car as she's walking back through the car park to me with a massive smile on her face. Because she says, "We're staying here, Michael." And I'm like, "What have you've done something. I know. I just know in my bones you've done something." And well, she booked a room. But as we walked in, wall-to-wall Zimmer frames and little motorized chairs and stuff.
Ta-da!
And every person we met in the lift was elderly, and she's big smile on the face, going, "You're gonna hate it here, Michael." Well, in her mind, but she's going, "Oh, you're gonna love this, Michael." So we went down to dinner, and I think everything was boiled fish with white sauce and mashed potato, I'm sure. So yeah, it was that. And then we walked along. We went for an evening walk, and outside every one of the hotels on the seaside there's a bus parked. And then when you look inside, I guarantee there must have been 100 Max Bygraves impressionists, doing a sing along in each one of them. It's like, are you serious? They could make a movie out of this. Seriously.
Even Blackpool's not that bad, although Blackpool has its parts as well, I think, when I've been to those as well. You go, oh no, Eastbourne. Of all the places you could have ended up. Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I love that though, going to Bath, park up. No, it's like people think that about Cambridge. We're just going to go to Cambridge and we're just going to park up and we're going to walk round and no, you don't do that here. It's a mission. You have to know the inside track as to where to park and how to get to where you need to, i.e. know a friend that has a driveway.
So did you face your fears then?
I did. I actually apparently I was being cheeky to two old women in the lift. Vicky said.
Oh, there you go then. Desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eastbourne was actually good therapy.
She actually said, "I can't take you anywhere, can I? You're even trying to flirt with the old women, Mike. What's going on?"
Oh, I love that story.
That is brilliant. My Uncle Ron used to go there. My late great Uncle Ron used to go there, and he used to ring up my dad. It was sometime around sort of March time. He used to be like, "Uncle Ron's going to ring. Oh God, Uncle Ron's going to ring." And he used to go to the same hotel every year in Eastbourne, same week. And he'd ring up my dad because my dad, bless him, is the patience of a saint. He really does. And my dad used to work on the railway, so he knew all the railway timetables and how he could get there. And every year, same hotel, probably the same train, but every year he'd ring up for at least a 3-hour conversation with my dad on what was the best train and where he might stay. And it's just like, there was never any variation. Uncle Ron's holiday, it was all part of our kind of like growing up. We were like, oh gosh, we all felt we'd lived there and done that. I have been to Eastbourne, by the way. I did go once. I lost Kenny there. And I think maybe he got taken away by some, I don't know, probably someone was a toy boy. I don't know. He just sort of disappeared. And I can't remember what happened. I just remember losing him and thinking, oh, well, I'll turn up at some point. I'll go and get myself an ice cream. So I just went and sat down on a bench somewhere and ate an ice cream and hoped he'd turn up at some point, which he did. I did that thing that your parents tell you, don't move from where you are. Stay where you are and someone will find you, like you're meant to do. And so I didn't. But luckily it was by an ice cream stand. I'm thinking, he'll claim me in a minute. I'm gonna go home on my own.
That's something that drives me mad. Is like Vicky and I will go somewhere, we'll split up and we'll say, right, we'll meet right here, okay? When you're done, right here.
Yeah.
Where were you? Oh, I just wanted to go into that shop over there and have a look at,
No, my worst thing is I'm geographically challenged, so I do everything by sight. I can drive to Cornwall from here by sight alone. I don't need a map. I just know because, oh yeah, look, we're going past that place. It's the so-and-so, and that reminds me of that place. And oh look, that's that place over there. So it's literally just by sight. If they change the road layout, I'm totally screwed. It's like my friend, one of my lovely friends, Julia. I adore her. We used to go and meet quite often halfway in London. So sometimes we'd go to, wasn't to Sarah. What's the other big shopping place? Blue Water.
Oh, just round by me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you see, I could have popped in, couldn't I? But didn't know you at the time, obviously.
So who are you? Who are you? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna know you in your future life. You know, God, you're gonna regret it. So Ginny used to always park her car by the entrance of John Lewis in the great big Blue Water car park where the towels were. So, I don't know if it's true or not. I can't remember if I've made this up or not. But I think one day they changed the layout of the store around so she couldn't find her car because there's no towels. She's like, oh my God, I've got to try and remember that there's something else by the exit. And I'm like that. If they change the road layout on the way down to Cornwall, I'm absolutely screwed. Though I did actually drive down there once, and there was a tailback on must have been the A30, and we ended up on the Bodnick ferry, and Kenny had been on night shift, and so he wasn't quite compass mentis. He was going to drive down, so he was working nights, finished work at 6 a.m. I went and picked him up from work, and he was going to drive down, and he got sort of to the M11 and pulled over and said, I can't because I'm going to fall asleep. And that, great, epic, I'm going to have to drive down. All right, okay, fine. So I drove all the way. He's sleeping in the car next to me, and the next thing is he wakes up on the Bodnick ferry. What the hell are we doing here? It's just like, shortcut. We're still moving. We're going. We're just doing the back roads. It took forever. We were going. I'm not sitting on the A30 waiting for them to clear up a road accident. It just takes too long. Too impatient. Not doing that. I'd rather go and do a scenic route. So off we went. And he just said, "What the hell? We never quite forgotten that."
The long cut.
Yeah. I don't know whether you want to talk a little bit about work boundaries. I don't know, it probably doesn't affect you quite so much, Michael, but I would certainly affect us, I think, over here, and the boundaries of how we're coping if we've been in meetings where there's been babies and children present, and how we're feeling about that. I'm sure that affects many of the people that are listening and how they're managing to cope with that, and what strategies people are putting in place, because it's come up quite a bit, I think, in the community conversations we've been having. And how we're dealing with that.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
There's actually a post that was on LinkedIn about this, and I'm going to try and find it.
It was the chap sat with his kid, wasn't it?
It is, yeah. And actually had a really interesting conversation about it. I've been commenting on so many things. Here we go. This is it. So actually it was quite a lot of really good comments, I think, on there from people. So the context, or setting the scene, is it's on a page on LinkedIn called The Female Lead, which I have to say that I thought, well, that's not really being representative of all females, but by sharing this. And the guy is called Frank Back, and he's a lead product designer at Headspace, in fact, actually, which I would imagine is the same Headspace as the meditation app. I can't think there's any other company called that. And he had a picture of himself and his daughter, who must only be a few months old. She's very tiny, can't even yet be 1 year old. And the photograph comes with the quote, "I brought my daughter onto a Zoom call this week. Of course, she's super cute, and I'm excited to expose her to people outside of our bubble." But then a colleague said something to me which really stuck. "It's easy to forget that beyond work, we're all just people." It's true, Frank goes on to say. As a leader, I want to encourage those with families to not feel that they need to hide behind what is professional. If you're comfortable, show us your life, your kids, your families. We're all working from home, and breaking through this makes showing up every day that much easier. If COVID taught me anything, it's that work-life integration is just as key as the work-life balance. I hope this inspires some of you. And that was shared on the Female Lead group on LinkedIn. And I kind of got involved in all of this because someone else that I knew shared this, and I was going to take issue with them. And I thought, no, because I don't want to fall out with the person I know, and I do trust and respect them, and they do know of my story. And I felt that they'd shared it because they are, like lots of people across the world, and I would imagine, particularly in the UK, where parents have been literally with 2 days' notice homeschooling. And I'm going to just say openly that I cannot imagine what that must be like, that you are assuming your kids are going back to school. You've had the worry of the fact that they might get it, pass it to you, and then somehow you've got to get on with homeschooling with 2 days' notice from, literally, I think it was 2 days' notice from the government, having been told prior and up to Christmas that would not happen. I can't imagine how difficult that must be, but it's been a constant narrative, constant narrative about how tough homeschooling is for people. And there's been very little has been said about those of us who are struggling with the other side of it, which is that picking up the workload of colleagues who are struggling because they can't obviously give their entire time to their job. And also the fact that, when you've got meetings, you've got people bringing their kids to meetings, and how that works. And for others who are in difficult situations, and I know at least 2 or 3 people that have contacted me directly and have said, look, actually, I'm really struggling with this and I don't know what to do. So that's the context of the post. And there were, let's have a quick look. There were 732 comments, and about 32,700 people liked it. Not the original one, but the one that was reposted and shared on the female lead, which has about 2 million something followers.
Yeah, I've looked it up actually. I found your comment actually. You commented in response to another lady who was talking about, look, I've got mixed feelings and this is why. This is the other side of the story. And that got quite a few responses. It got 32 replies.
It did, 82 likes and supports, which I think is good. All people thinking,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not very open on LinkedIn about my other hat. I've posted it a little bit every now and again about what I do, but most of it's my other business. But I think in the work context, just to give you an example, I was doing some training, and a lot of the commentary, we did a bit about mental health before we got into the main stuff, see how people are doing working from home, because it is, when you're frontline workers, I work in complaints basically, is my other hat. But when you're a frontline worker, at the moment, it's difficult because you can't be with your team, you're isolated, you have a crap call that might chime with your own stuff, and you've got no one around you that you can sit, roll your eyes, go and grab a coffee with, or just have a vent. It's you're on your own. And I think the first thing that came in terms of mental health was, I'm struggling with the childcare. And I agree with you, that's really tough. But what I found unacceptable in that context was that I'm giving training and 2 people had their children on their lap as I'm giving training. And so not only is that, a trigger for me, but actually that the lines of professionalism are blurring, because it's like, well, childcare is really hard, so I'm going to bring my child onto this meeting. And that, for me, I think is where it gets difficult for our community, because it's like, well, do I say anything? Do I ignore it? What do I do? And it's kind of, what is the level of acceptability in terms of how do you react when your trigger is coming at you inside your own home, and out of a context where you don't expect to be triggered. So, it's really tough, I think.
It is, yeah. Have you escalated that? Has anyone given you any advice on that, or is it something that you prefer not to say?
For me, I mean, I think because I'm very good at compartmentalizing, so I just I acknowledged the child got shy and it buggered off, and I thought, happy days, that's what I need to do then, is just sort of, right, I'm going to acknowledge it, I'll be polite. And then the child went, and I was like, right, okay, can I just make sure that everyone's in a place where they can do this training? Because I said, if you are going to be distracted or you've got other things going on, then perhaps you need to come back another day. But I can do that as a trainer. Do you see what I mean? Whereas if you are talking in a meeting as a peer, you haven't got that luxury.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. And I think that's the right approach that you take there. It popped up actually in one of the community groups that I belong to. Someone was saying that they've got someone in their training class who they're all training together, and they're bringing their children along, and it's distracting everybody else because the child is very much part of her environment, so she'll just stop talking halfway through and engage with the child and then come back, and of course it takes the conversation away from whatever they were doing, and they're all paid money to train. And I think the universal response when she said, I'm struggling with that, is you talk to that person, you talk to the trainer, and they have to arrange something else with that person so that they don't keep disrupting the meetings. My comments on this, the comments that they had on this thing were just that people were saying on this post was that involuntary childlessness means we can't have children. There's a lot of grief wrapped up in that, and when we work, it's about what we can do at work, and it's a welcome escape from social feeds of happy families and parents struggling with homeschools during COVID. The move towards inclusivity means that we have to adapt to new ways of working, which have rightly focused on supporting parents, but it means that sadly many childless people are seeing cute kids on Zoom meetings, or due to the pressure of families and childless women are also picking up the workloads. When you're grieving infertility and failed treatments, miscarriage and baby loss, work then becomes another part of life where you are excluded. I think that's absolutely right, and a well-observed point by somebody else, not by me, who actually comments later on to say that that was really hard for her to post that because she hadn't been open on LinkedIn about this. Not so much. We've got the Full Stop podcast is on LinkedIn. There's a page for it, and I'm connected to that, so people would be able to find that out. And I've been a little bit more open about it lately, just in picking up things. Groups I belong to where I know that it's safe to do so, or people already have an inkling that it's something not quite. I think if people don't want to work with me because they knew that, then they're obviously not people they're not my clients. I don't want to collaborate and do design work with people that perhaps don't understand that not having children doesn't make me effective at my business. And I've had that before. I've actually had somebody who got in touch with me and asked if I was qualified to do the work I do because I didn't have children.
What?
It was a kid's book, and she had and I know.
Give me their name and address. Give me their name and address.
Just jog on.
I've long forgotten. I've actually, just for the record, I've at the moment I'm working on a project that has 218 educational books for children, and the design and all of the illustration work, and I've been doing that for like the last 2 years, and I've got another year-ish or 6 months to go doing that for a publisher. So that's my background. So her loss, my gain, because she's not somebody that I would want to work with. And in fact, in many ways, sometimes being open about these things or just being aware of it means I don't have to have these awkward conversations, because it's just like, well, okay, we're not working together.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, regardless of that, there was quite a bit going on this post, people saying thank you and for the support. And actually quite a lot of people have also said, who are parents, had said on this post that is a good point. And I want to shout out, I think, to the people that listen to this podcast, who I know that there are people listening to podcasts who are parents who have learned from the conversations that the three of us and all of our lovely guests have had with us, and have had that realize that there is a different side, to life. And actually being childless, of course, comes with lots of other issues as well. But it's an interesting thing. My comment was about meetings and about how perhaps we need to look at how we manage meetings, and that meeting organizers perhaps need to be aware that there might be children, and that we have a choice, so that if the meeting has notes taken and minutes, I know it's terribly old-fashioned, but if there are minutes that are taken, then people who are triggered by these things don't have to come along. They're not obligated. We all have a choice, so that those who aren't public about their situation have the choice to say, actually, I can't come to this. This is not a meeting that I can come to. Or they can just decline it with no reason whatsoever. They just don't have to. It's non-obligatory. No one should be obligated to come to meetings, I think, in our current situation, because we are also not just the triggers, but also that we have different things that we're having to do as well. We're juggling other stuff, different things, but we also are juggling life, but there ought to be more choices with that, and meeting organisers need to be aware of that too.
I was talking about this in a different context the other day. So we're talking about triggers, and there are different strategies you can use. So there are ways you can say no, But there's also exit strategies. And one of those is if you see a trigger in a business meeting, then you can private message that organizer and say, I'm sorry that I've had to go, and switch your camera off and just go. That, you know, if that's a problem for them, then I guess you're having to have a conversation, but there are always exit strategies. And sometimes when you're triggered, you just need to know that you can go, and that you haven't got to stick around with your face with this rictus grin trying to pretend you're okay. So I guess it's just empowering yourself to go, maybe I don't go to the meeting, maybe I think about how I can exit stage left if I need to, and how I can give myself time afterwards just to get myself back together again.
Yeah, I think that's important. I did a thing a couple of weeks ago, which was Freelance Heroes, and they have a freelance day, and I thought, oh, it'd be good, I'll go to that. And I went, and there was the first two trainers talked about homeschooling and kids, and then the third one, it was a pregnancy announcement. I'm going to be a dad in March. And I hadn't thought that would be a trigger. I thought, oh, we're all here together, you know, it won't be a thing. And actually I had to, and it's very rare that I do that, but I had to literally just leave the whole thing. I'd paid money for this, you know, and it wasn't as if I could watch it on the recording, because I knew that they would pop up now and then. And they actually have these kind of breakout meetings. And the first one that I went to, because you're in the same sort of breakout, I think, every time. And I just said, look, actually, I'm not going to be coming back for the other ones because I'm just I can't do this. And they were just, oh, no, what's wrong? And I said, well, there's been, you know, this is all very pronatal pregnancy announcement. And actually, I'm childless, not by choice. I've been through miscarriages and failed IVF. And I actually don't want to be here because I can't deal with this. It's too much for my mental capacity. And I don't have anyone around me to support me. You know, I can't literally go and down the road or come and visit you, Sarah, or anybody else and say, look, actually, I need a bit of support here. I can't do that. I'm isolated in my grief. And you are all celebrating the fact that someone's going to be having a child, which is lovely and fantastic, but actually I don't feel the same. And I'm going. And I was quite open about why I was going. But it did feel like I was the only one in the room that was feeling that way. And it was all these freelance communities can be very, very pro-natal, I think.
No, they can, especially startups. So, you know, I've got a friend who I love to bits that's she's mentored me since I started being self-employed, and she's brilliant and I love her to bits, but she's rebranded recently and she works solely with women, and obviously they all bond over children, and I just feel like I'm on the outside looking in, so I've not really engaged with it. I've not told her why yet, because I'm like, I'm not really in the mood to do that just now. Don't feel that I should have to justify why I've not engaged with this. But there is an awful lot of coaches, mentors and stuff who focus on women startups, and they all bond over that. It's you know, it's not my friend's fault. It just seems to be something that naturally happens. And so I've had to take a back seat and go, actually, no.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the thing at the moment, isn't it? That, you know, we're bonding over our shared stories because nobody really wants to talk too much about the pandemic because it's just too awful. So what's the next thing? What's the thing that binds people most? Kids. So they can talk about homeschooling and that. Although I do think sometimes there's a lady who lives in our street who I've been talking to. They've got 3 children, and they often come out and walk around at the same time. And in fact, actually, the little girl is terrified of dogs, but Molly seems to somehow be helping her with that in some kind of weird way, because my dog doesn't care about anybody much, really. She's very affectionate. So anyway, seems to have got into some sort of thing, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing this for? Because I'm sure it's not probably healthy for my brain, but actually I've quite enjoyed it. It's not been a problem. But she was talking about homeschooling and hasn't asked me whether I'm a parent or not. Nothing. There's been no conversation about that, which has been quite nice, but I'm waiting for it, because it'll probably come up at some point. But she's so strung up about the fact that she's just doing so badly about it, and the kids just want to come outside and play, that she's forgotten to ask me if I'm a parent at all, because she's just so in the zone of like, I'm just really shit at doing homeschooling. I'm so bad at it, and my kids are just like running wild, and oh my god, and I don't know what they're up to. So we just get the paper out and we start. They decorated all their living room window with like cut out tissue paper because that'll have to do. That's art, because she's given up really, and they're young enough, I think, for that not to be too much of an issue, perhaps. But it's been odd because I think she's been so caught up that I think she's just assumed, like I think lots of people are perhaps out there, that we are all parents, because it's the dominant, it's a popular hashtag on Twitter or any social media network. It's the thing that seems to pop up.
I think you're right. I mean, a number of business meetings I've been in there, someone's just started going on, they want the social thing, so they start talking about homeschooling. And I think a year ago, 2 years ago, I might have been more triggered by it. But now I'm sort of, I can sit and have a conversation and say, well, actually, no, I don't have kids, so I don't know. But this is going to sound, it's going to sound a bit wrong. But actually, I don't take pleasure from it, but it makes me see that actually the grass isn't always greener. When I've got someone saying to me that they can't even homeschool their 5-year-old because they're learning algorithms and they don't know what an algorithm is, and we can have a chat and say, I've no bloody idea either. So the fact that it's not all pleasurable in some sort of way actually brings me, is it Schadenfreude? It's a bit like a Schadenfreude thing where I take actually some comfort from the fact that, one, I haven't got to do it, and two, that actually it's not all sort of roses and sunshine, the fact that they've got to do this.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I think I think this year, or the last few years, but I think particularly 2020 made me think, actually, maybe it's a good thing. It is not a good thing, but it's maybe there is a small crumb of comfort that I haven't got to watch children of mine go through climate change.
Yeah.
When you think about, like, locally here, the rivers are flooding, the rain and everything. And I worry about climate change enough. I do. I worry a lot about it. But I haven't got to pass that worry on to my children. I can still be responsible. As you both know, I'm really into that. I think that, we can't use childlessness as an excuse for not caring about the planet. We all have a due responsibility to be aware of our carbon footprints regardless. But I don't have to worry about my children going through a planet that's going to be dying. Literally, it's dying. And we're not doing enough to support that. But also, I can't think of anything more difficult than trying to get children through a pandemic when actually you probably shit scared yourself.
Yeah.
I can be shit. And I know I get terrified by it because the dog Molly, bless her, always kind of reacts to moods like dogs do. And she knows that too, but at least it's just me and the dog, and we can just like have this sort of like, we're in this sort of thing, and I can get through that. But if your moods are kind of things that children pick up on, which they do with parents, and I think that must be really, really hard. So I think I'd like to think, I think that maybe perhaps as a community, perhaps we have some compassion there for those that are parents, but I'd like to hope that maybe it might be reciprocated. And I've been more open about the fact that a couple of meetings I've been to where, as I say, I've had kids have been present, and again the LinkedIn post actually deciding that I was going to reply to that and say, look, actually no, it's not that good, and it's not that simple, and there's got to be strategies in place for men and women who are triggered by people having their kids present. It happens with men as well. It's not just us.
It does.
All genders are affected by this, and there has to be that conversation. And I've now started to say, look, actually, I've been through miscarriage and failed IVF. If you Googled my name and obviously the podcast would come up, then it's obviously fairly clear that is a connection, and other stuff I've done as well. But I've now just started to be open about it, but not to view it as a thing of pity now. I'm actually extraordinarily proud. I think probably because of the podcast, I suppose, extraordinarily proud of that I've been through this. And if people don't understand that and they don't have an empathy and they think something different about that, then well, fuck them. Sorry, I don't care. And that's kind of the way I think about lots of things now. So that, it's like with my family sharing all the baby pictures on WhatsApp. I haven't replied. I just think, oh, fuck them. I've done my best. I've done the absolute best I can to tell you what I've been through. You could listen to the podcast if you wanted to. You could look at my social media feed if you wanted to. But if you don't, fuck you.
Fuck off.
Really, actually, now I've gone past that point, because I think it's a pandemic and we all need to be a little bit kinder to each other and a little bit more open about these things and not bury stuff under the carpet. And if actually the entire purpose of the WhatsApp group is to share baby pictures, then that's not taking into account my feelings, and therefore I don't quite feel that we're on the same page, and I'll have more in common with my friends.
Yeah, well, I think that's possibly one of the positive things that will come out of the pandemic, talking to people, is that actually, am I going to put up with your bullshit after this? Probably not. Am I going to feel compelled to reply to every scan picture or pregnancy announcement? No, fuck off. I haven't got interest in that. So, toodaloo.
Yeah. My line at the moment is I have survived failed IVF and miscarriage. And I don't want to deal with this. I'm looking after my mental health.
Exactly.
And I think that's a good one. And then you can insert whatever your reason is. You know, I have survived, or I am coming to terms with childlessness, not by choice, involuntarily, whatever term you want to use. And I'm looking after my mental health. And I don't need this. And I think we've got to have those conversations. I'm certainly pushing back, I think, in situations where I think that meeting organisers aren't, you know, I do never, ever, 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 ever want to see in a meeting invite required again. Not now. It should stop. That required should stop, because there are reasons why, and they are all good reasons why people just should say, no, I don't want to do this. And like you say, have exit strategies in place as well. I think that's a really good point. Is there any other exit strategies that you can share, Sarah, that might be helpful?
No, I've talked about, so triggers. When you're triggered, your emotions just go and you're engulfed. So I would always recommend practicing. So come up with those strategies when you're feeling calm and you know that you can think them through, and then you can engage them once you're triggered like that. And it is as simple as, like, you know, when I'm triggered, if I'm out and about, hopefully at some point we will be again, I just make sure I know where the exit is, and I don't feel that I have to explain it. I'm off. So if people want to check in with me afterwards, then I'll explain. But it is just making sure that you can engage those strategies when you've been triggered and when your emotions have taken you over, so that you're almost in, not autopilot, but your feet will just go, right, exit stage left, and you don't have to feel compelled to do anything else.
Yeah. I'd also say probably pick up the phone as well, talk to somebody. I mean, you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, because I was just struggling, and you contacted me and just said, do you want to just get onto Zoom? The broadband was absolutely shite at the time, but it was just enough.
Crap.
It was really bad, wasn't it? I don't know what was going on. But it was just touching base with you and just saying, okay, there's someone here just to talk to. And of course, you know, we both understand the situations that we're in, but having someone around to go, okay, this is an issue. And I know that I could do the same with Michael as well, that, you know, the three of us can talk to each other. But again, you know, anyone out there listening to the podcast who thinks I don't have someone like that, then the three of us are here as well for you too. Don't feel that you couldn't ever contact one of us via the podcast and say, look, actually, I just need a bit of help. Someone just give me a call. Do that, because that's so important. I couldn't have got through that week had I have not spoken to Sarah, because, you know, I've got my husband here, but it's different, and you just need someone just to kind of ground you and give you just some strategies to help you. And that's what, Sarah, you're so good at, as well as being a good friend.
Thank you. Right. Sniffle.
Can we do something cheerful now? Something that's really good, like a little round of applause thing. This has to go onto the podcast.
Oh, go on.
We've been nominated, haven't we? For an award.
Can we back up? Back up. I've got something to add.
Okay, yeah, go on.
We talked about strategies. So one of the things that I think people need to, I think one of the worries that people from our community will have is, what would be the ramification if I didn't go to a meeting?
Yeah.
How would I look? How, you know, would I be up for disciplinary action if I keep missing these meetings? And I think I think that'd be a real fear. That's something that would sit with me.
Yeah.
So I wrote down some notes. Just let me get to them. Yeah. So I think one of the things we need to have is also arm yourself with some not ammunition, it's not what I'm looking for, but I'll talk about it in this way. Here in Australia, there is something called, and each state has one, it's called the Occupational Health and Safety Act. I know we're international, so I can't speak for all countries around the world, but I just want to read you this. The Work Health and Safety Act 2011, New South Wales, blah, blah, provides a framework to protect the health and safety and welfare of all workers and others in relation to New South Wales workplaces and work activities. So where I'm coming from is that I believe you would be absolutely within your rights. Now, if you do this previous to meetings or afterwards when you've felt that you've been triggered and you've left, that you can, and I'll speak from my perspective here, that you can actually email your boss and say, look, explain the situation, explain who you are, what the situation is, and that these triggers, are an assault on your mental health, because they are. Now, we're not saying that, it's not about chastising parents, but it's about making aware of the people that need to know that this is an issue, and you have that legislation to back you up. Are you too feverishly now Googling Occupational Health and Safety Acts?
No, I was looking at the UK equivalent, because obviously we've got the Mental Health Act, but we are not, unfortunately, we are not a recognised attribute under the Mental Health Act. But what I think there's certain things that are recognised, but there is a duty,
Yes.
a duty of care by your employer to make sure that you feel safe and that your well-being is protected, which is probably why a lot of companies over here are doing a lot of well-being at the moment, obviously with COVID. So I would say, okay, it's not a recognised thing, but your mental health is very important.
Yes, and so that's where I'm coming from in terms of your boss has an obligation, and if you make them aware of that, then now the onus is on them to now manage that. So you don't have to manage it; they have to manage it, and I think that's important.
It's
because
reasonable,
because we would be, you can imagine someone feeling quite isolated, doesn't have support because everyone's talking about their children. Where do I go about this? And I think we need to arm ourselves with that information to say, make them aware, and then they need to manage that.
There's lots of statistics and lots of information on the World Childless Week website, worldchildlessweek.net, and also I think Gateway Women will most certainly have resources on there. I've shared Jodie's video about being childless, her TED talk with people who struggle to understand that, and in fact actually with the various human resource teams as well, just to make sure that there's something. In fact, the university in Cambridge now has a policy on infertility treatment, and also there might be things as well, and if you've got a gender balance as well, look in your workplace for things like gender balance networks as well, and equality, anything like that can also be really helpful too. I've been raising awareness of that in the university here in Cambridge, which I have a contract with, and it's something that I talk about quite openly, to make sure that people are aware that there are others who suffer in different ways. And again, that might be something that they can advise you on too. But absolutely, I think one of the things that's been interesting about the pandemic is that when I first started, when I was working from home in the past, before I was freelance, I kind of not want to leave the room or take my laptop, everywhere with me, in case someone needed me for something, no one actually is that critical that they're needed all the time. So I think that it's worth bearing in mind that there is a little bit, I think, of flexibility now. And this sounds a terrible thing in the world to say, because it's not really a truth. But I think that you can also blame an awful lot of things on tech and on the fact that actually you're trying to balance your own different things as well. You know, your broadband could be dodgy. I wouldn't say that you should probably use that as an excuse too often, but you know, I think if you are particularly having a bad day and you don't want to say something, then I actually think that's fair and reasonable, because people say, you know, we'll say, you know, their kids are having a bad day. Well, actually, you could have a bad day with something else as well, if you felt that it wasn't something you wanted to explain. But don't obviously use that too much. It's a bit like when you're a kid and the dog chewed your homework. There's only so many times you can get away with that, I know. But yeah, just, you know, thinking, okay, I didn't necessarily want to do that, but also perhaps looking then at different ways that you can have that conversation, because not all managers are as empathetic as others. But being open, or you know, if you wanted to be more broad, I suppose you could say that actually your mental health is not right at the moment because and you can have that conversation. Employers do have a responsibility to look after the welfare of everybody, particularly at the moment.
There's information on the ACAS website which might be worth sharing, because it's generic about mental health and it's about the obligations, so that might be worth a share.
acas.org.uk, I think. That's UK.
That is UK, not Australia. But yeah, no, it's a tough one, but I think there are things that we can do to help ourselves.
Yeah, I think, and that's important, I think, of the podcast as well, is that we're having those conversations, and there's been so many things that are going on. I think now we've had news that the World Childless Week is happening again this year, which is great. So again, there's just things going on. It's 5th year. Did you know that's 5 years of World Childless Week? Wow, I know. So all those sorts of things are giving evidence and stories and more diversity, I think, to what it's like to be childless. So draw on those resources as well. We're all here for evidence as well, you know. And if you need to, then share this bit of the podcast. You know, we don't mind. That's what we're here to do, to provide support. But employers do have to do more. And meeting organisers too. I think people just need to have that tolerance and just be aware that not everyone's in the same situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, award was the other thing. Yeah. We go on to that now, and I think that's probably it. I think then we're done. I don't think there's anything much else.
Mic drop at the end.
Yeah. We've been nominated, Sarah and I have been nominated for Digital Women Award, Podcast of the Year Award, in fact, with Digital Women, who also have a category for Digital Mother of the Year, which I know a few people have taken with that. In fact, there is someone I know, good friend of mine, Anne, who runs Drive the Network, who is a mum, but she's to a very grown up son, but has said constantly to me that she's always learnt a lot from what the work that we do, which is lovely. And she, I know, had nominated us and a few others as well from our community. So if you're a listener and you have done that, then thank you so very much, because it just gives us, to quote guests that we've had, it gives us, I think it actually was Savilla Morgan who said it, was we get a place at the table. And I think that is so important. The awards are now closed, so there's no more nominating going on, but I know that I've put in quite a lot of nominations as well, and I won it last year. I got a Digital Women one to watch last year, and it was specifically about childlessness, but specifically about the design work and the business work that I do to help men and women, anyone really who's going through their plan B and is setting up a new business and needs branding and work and design and websites and stuff like that. So it was all specifically to do that. So I spoke a lot about that, so that we get a place at the table in groups like that. And that's really important. So yay, well done, Sarah Lawrence.
And you, I was just like, I saw the email, I was like, bloody hell.
I know.
How do I feel about being in the spotlight like this? It's just like, oh.
I couldn't think of two more deserving people to get it.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for your support as well, Michael, because it's a podcast of 3.
Yeah.
Always
I just hope it's not me that doesn't allow you to get it. That's
no, I think it's really, I think I've often sort of said it's like, you know, the unique selling point of our podcast is that it is the 3 of us. And we have that it's just good to be able to sit here and just to talk to each other quite freely and openly about how we're feeling. It's really important to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Certainly is. And that's all we have to leave the chat for now. Now, please don't forget that we're also on the Trinity of Facebook, Insta and Twitter, and all the links can be found in our website, www.thefullstoppod.com. And here, you can register for our newsletter so you can keep up to date with what we're up to. We would also appreciate if you could rate us on the platform you're using to listen to the podcast. The more ratings we get, the wider our spread and the more of our community we can reach. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast or have a burning issue you think our community should be aware of, there is a form on our website that you can fill in and give us some details. And don't forget, we love hearing from our audience, so please drop us a line anytime. And as always, it's important for us to let you know you are not alone.